Hey everyone, welcome to this week's recap podcast for SNXweave. If you're a new listener, we'll be giving quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council core contributors, as well as discussing what the Grants DAO and Ambassador DAO are up to. We've got a lot of interesting content for you today, so let's get started. Optimism's Regenesis was successful on Kovan, which means L2 shorting is working great on Kovan now, and should be the same on mainnet once the full Regenesis happens. SIP 187, to fix partial synth updates in debt cache, was approved last week, with all 8 council members voting in favor. Shortly after its approval, it was completed and released on L1 and L2. This SIP should alleviate the problem that occurs when a large holder burns and the debt snapshot isn't completed. The Atomic Exchange Function SIP is also almost done. Brett says he's hoping to finish it this week. This SIP has 2 parts. The first is a contract change, which is an addition to synthetics that allows you to exchange atomically, and the second is a contract deployment, which is basically the Oracle for Uniswap. The Wrapper Factory SIP is also progressing well, and should be ready in a couple of weeks. As a reminder, this SIP proposes a new abstract factory contract that can deploy new wrappers as needed, rather than creating another distinct SIP and contract for each new token to be added in the future. Once it's deployed, you'll be starting with ETH and Link, and then each new wrapper instance can be introduced to the factory via a SIP. Futures is also getting there. It should be up on Kovan soon. The Quenta team is just doing the final tests. The testnet trading competition is in progress now and is scheduled to end Tuesday. The council also discussed SCCP 142, which will increase L2 inflationary rewards from 50,000 to 75,000 SNX weekly. Caleb says it's ready to be put to a vote. However, Kane and Big Penny would prefer raising it even higher to 100,000 SNX. Remember the V2X scope we talked about a few weeks ago? Well, Phase 1 is almost complete. Check out our blog post for a link to the complete V2X roadmap. We're excited to be moving into Phase 2. As for the meta-governance SIP discussion, the Spartan Council discussed these proposals a bit more, but nothing was finalized. Daniel urged that the V2X and Core Contributor Committee SIPs be pushed through, and that the Risk Committee SIP be put on hold for now while the discussion continues. Big Penny emphasized again that the Core Contributor Committee SIP still seems too detailed in its current form, and that it should be stripped down to a simple proposal that allows the core contributors to organize and vote their own representatives into the committee. He also said that any mention of funding should be removed from this SIP, since that is up to the Treasury Council, not the Spartan Council. Kane agreed with all of this. Daniel also pointed out that the SIP doesn't specify the voting process for how core contributors will elect their committee members. Kane and Big Penny agreed that the proposal should specify this explicitly, and that further discussion is required with Andy to clarify what the election process will look like for the Core Contributor Committee. As for the Grants DAO, the Treasury Council just distributed 32,000 SUSD to the GDAO for their short-term budget. One of the GDAO's projects is a debt hedging bot that stakers can use to automatically hedge their debts externally. Since it was initially announced at the end of September, there has been some brainstorming around how to make it a little more user-friendly. To do so, it was decided that a Heroku integration would be the best solution. This has been done and is in its final testing stage, and once released, this integration will make setup and installation of the hedging bot much easier by allowing users to deploy to Heroku. Mike is still working on the 300 article we discussed last week, which will detail the vision and details of this role. The GDAO is also urging participation and self-communication amongst the 300 members, as Mike is putting together a few lieutenants of the group who will help get people engaged and find other community members to join. So far in the 300 channel in Discord, there have been a lot of great ideas, but not as much action being taken. The GDAO emphasizes that even small actions, like retweeting posts on Twitter, can go a long way. Rubber Duck suggested doing more raffles to encourage those involved in the 300 to participate more. And speaking of participation, community member Beach Mom was nominated for another retroactive reward from the GDAO for his staking article and Reddit posts. Thanks for your support, Beach Mom. You may have also seen from Clem's tweet or from CT's post in the GDAO announcements channel that Teleporter was temporarily decommissioned last week. It was falsely labeled as a phishing site by a small number of people, which led it to be immediately taken down by a centralized service. This incident, as well as the difficulties that the GDAO encountered in getting it back up, have proven the need for decentralized hosting services. As of yesterday, Teleporter is back up and running, but check out Clem's tweet linked in our blog post to read more about the issue. The Grants DAO is also still working on version 1.5 of the GDAO site. Last week, CT met with the coder to request an update to the grant application page for it to include multiple input fields, as well as a GDAO initiative page. These will both be exciting new additions to the site. And speaking of exciting new initiatives, the Grants DAO has an NFT project on the horizon. They are currently partnering with ArcX and Universe as they actively work on making this project happen. Expect more info on this front soon. As for the Ambassador DAO, the first Spartan City Hall is happening soon. As a reminder, this first City Hall will happen with Lyra and will most likely take place in the public synthetics community governance stage. The ambassadors have been hard at work brainstorming campaign ideas for growth, and the Spartan City Halls are a top priority for this agenda. The ADAO looks forward to inviting partners and protocol leads to join them in a public call to chat about projects, governance, and more. The ambassadors are also looking forward to releasing their roadmap soon, which will detail the ADAO's goals and projects for the rest of the epic. Millie says he is working on it and hopes to have it released soon, after receiving input from the other DAOs. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.